Welcome in, listeners. This is Margin Mavens, a podcast hosted by Steph and Kayla, where we share our thoughts on all things literature. Today's episode is about Oathbound by Tracy Deonn, and we're joined by our friend Heavenly Bibliophile. In the third installment of the Legendborn Cycle, it is all about quests. Bree is on her own quest, Nick is on a quest, Mariah and Valec are on a quest, and when all their quests come together, something truly extraordinary happens. Now make sure to grab a snack and a drink, unless you're driving, then remember 10 and 2, and come hang out with us while we dive in. Girly Pops.
Yes.
I read this book in one sitting.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
I have a really bad habit of
waiting until the last
knowing
minute.
that a book is going to hurt me specifically.
Yeah.
And I wait until the day before recording.
So, context for all the listeners out there who don't know, we have had this book in our possession for what, 2 months now?
Yeah.
And we have avoided reading it. Because
it's been the boogeyman on my shelf.
Yes.
Like, every time I had to reorganize something, every time I was like fixing up my shelf, I was like, ooh, jump scare. And
This book just looming over us.
Yeah.
See, I knew if I didn't start it immediately, that would be me up until like the summer. Because I either start a new release immediately or it's just, I can't. I don't know if I can. Like, I did that with Chain of Thorns and it took me about 2 weeks to read it. Mind you, I had pre-ordered a copy and I also went into the shops to buy a copy because my pre-order didn't arrive and I still didn't start it straight away. So I get the feeling.
Yeah, Kayla and I we were supposed to record this weeks ago.
Yeah.
And like we just sincerely kept saying like, no, Tracy kind of scares us, so we're just gonna not until
I was one of the many people waiting on the episode. I was like, oh my god, I love their first 2 episodes. I can't wait to hear them. So now I'm
okay. So I'm gonna start off with a banger.
Mm-hmm.
It's by like the beginning of this book. It has only been 3 months since Bree found out about all of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to pause because the majority of that time was Blood Month. I was like, there is no way. Blood Month was like, what, two weeks?
Yeah.
A week?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was,
not Blood Month, sorry, Legendborn.
It puts everything, I think, into perspective because there was a lot of points where I was like, I'm really frustrated with how everything is kind of falling out. I don't understand. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, no, it's 3 months and all of their worlds have been shifted.
Yep.
Like, there were times with Bree where I was like, okay, come on, they've told you this, you know, like...
Get with the program.
Then you know it's like, oh, everything that's happened has been like every day back to back for the past like week. I'm like, you know what? I would have
crashed
out. Like, day 2. Like, I don't know how she did it.
Yeah, I would have been like, y'all need to find me a padded room.
Goodbye.
Give these babies a break, please. These babies need a break.
I might said something horrific, and I thought, the fact that their lives are shortened already. I was like, well, their break will be coming soon, whether they like it or not.
Oh my god.
I mean, you're not wrong, but...
So I'm just going tab by tab, okay?
Yes.
I really enjoyed, in like a messed up way, I really enjoyed the Shadow King and Bree's like student-teacher relationship. You know, it was very much like, you and I are not friends. We're not on the same side.
Mm-hmm.
But we have the same goal right now, which is to get you stronger. And the whole premise of the book really following this idea of like she decides that there are core things that she wants to be. Right? And the last of those things being ruthless. And I was like, wow, you know what? Go, girly pop. You've been through a lot in these 3 months. Do what you gotta do. Talk yo talk. Right? And then as the book unravels, I really enjoyed seeing how she got stronger. I enjoyed the multiple POVs of things, right? So there's...
Mm-hmm.
My favorite part about the multi-POV is that whenever we got William's POV, I enjoyed seeing the order and everything that was going on through the eyes of somebody that, like, knew it and knew the history and, like, understood all of the kind of like cogs in the machine that were going on, especially when we start going into like Nick's curia, right? Which we're jumping around and stuff because I'm an asshole. But the fact that William is able to kind of tell us what's going on and we're not like trying to fumble around and learn things at the same time as Bree, like he's very like, oh my god, this is happening, and I'm like, yes, explain it to me like I am a kindergartner.
No, nothing.
Yeah, I'm like, I was like, I love Bree. I love her POV so much, right? But sometimes you just want to understand.
Yeah.
I honestly felt so clueless about everything. Like, it's been, 4 years since I read these books, like the first book, and I still don't get the whole Squire page thing. Like, it just confused me so much.
Yeah.
And, like, I get Bree confused, but it's making me more confused, and it's like, can I please understand something? But to be fair, I understand what's going on when it's happening, so it's not like I'm too confused, but, like, it's the fact that I still haven't figured it out that's bugging me, and I'm like, maybe someday. As I say, whilst we're 3 books in.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows?
And so yeah, we get. Yeah, Kayla?
I said who knows.
Oh.
We'll figure it out someday.
But we get those multiple POVs. What I really enjoyed also was when Erebus is trying to figure out what is causing Bree to like have such a low control over her magic and over her roots and all of these things. And he's like, you did all of these like super badass things. What could be so whatever? And it's so funny to me because being who he is, he just doesn't understand like human emotion.
No.
Yeah.
And it's like the big conundrum because he's like, I don't understand. You did all of these super scary things by any objective and you were chilling. But now you're in some sort of like dark emo cloud. And he's like, I don't understand what's going on.
It's called being a teenager. Welcome.
It's called being a teenager. And he's just unaware what that looks like.
She's just a baby.
She's just a baby. So throughout the book, we get the premise of and listeners, sorry, this is never gonna be spoiler free.
No,
sorry.
I don't think we can talk about Oathbound and keep it spoiler free.
No,
I just had to immediately dive into things. There's no spoiler free.
I haven't written my review yet because I was like, I need to talk about everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Without like being like, oh, but how do I no.
Yeah.
When
gotta
it gets
just yap.
If you read it, great. If not, that's on you.
Yeah.
True. Who clicks a book review
for a 3rd book in a series? And weirdly, it's happened quite often.
But so this whole thing is that Bree has chosen to go with the Shadow King because she wants to get stronger. She feels basically betrayed by her ancestors. We left Bloodmarked on a really big cliffhanger in the fact that she burns her entire ancestral stream. Which,
so much to say about later on.
I understood why she did it.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have, but I understood the frustration.
I'm too
Once
scared
again,
of my ancestors.
everything happening in a span of like 3 months. I was like, I understood why she freaked out and like had this crash out, you know?
Yeah. But also it's like, okay, I'm all for like doing things your own way. However, the repercussions of that might be really bad. Let's
think this through, guys.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, what if that screws you over, like, just internally? Like, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then we deal with her going to the Shadow King. We know that she has sent him to take Selwyn to his mom because Selwyn has gotten taken over by his demonia. And Nick is back over there in the Order. And Nick, listen, I never hated Nick.
Nope.
Same.
He was not my favorite.
He was mine.
Same.
Still is.
Yeah, he was not my favorite, but this book definitely gave him his props. This one definitely made him talk his talk, walk his walk.
Yeah.
Um,
I will say, going into the series, I usually like get attached to like the first side character ish that like comes
mhm,
on page. But obviously, when Cell came on page, I was like, it's a bit, it's a bit strange, but interesting, cool. And then we met Nick, and I was like, okay, I don't think he didn't seem like he was part of the order at first. Obviously, that's the whole point. So I was like, oh, this is just a random guy. I hope it's not some like regular like
regular
love
dude.
that you've got people with, like just not part of the order, someone detached from it, and then you've got Sal who's part of it, and it's like, then
Yeah.
what's the point? But he wasn't. I just, again, going back to the fact that this first book took place over like a week or two or something. I felt that their room, I hate, absolutely hate insta love. It's my worst, like number one worst trope. And I wouldn't say there is. It just felt really fast. Like she went from like, please stop talking to me,
Yeah.
stay away from me, to like, to be fair, she was using him, so like,
Go girly pop.
you do what you need to do. But like, I was like, whoa, we're talking big feelings already, and I had to keep reminding myself that they are teenagers, but also when I was their age, I, I, I I'm
I don't
really
know,
averse
man.
to
I
I
like
had
was
a
dumb
crush
as
on
hell.
anybody that was nice to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was dumb as hell.
I would have crushes, but then if they acted like felt the same, I would be like, "Can you stay away from me? Why are you talking to me?" Which is
Yeah.
Hmm.
my
I
own
know I'm
problem. But
mentally
like,
ill, and therefore, if you're going as quick as I am, that's a red flag.
yeah. Uh, but like, I never thought he was boring. I just never thought he was for me.
Hmm.
And then we got blood marked, and like what happened there with like when they finally caught up to him and him killing one of the members of the order, and I was like, interesting. Okay. And then, I mean, we always knew he wasn't everything that he showed himself to be. So I was like, I need more Nick in the third book because like otherwise I'm not
Right.
going to be able to attach myself to him enough. She took that and ran with it
Took
because
it as a
I literally the
challenge.
first time I got Terry was his POV, well not his POV, it was Williams, but like seeing Nick's reaction, I was like, can I give him a hug,
Yeah.
please? Like immediately from the start of like part one, I was like, okay, Nick, you are my baby.
Yeah.
You got me. So.
I my biggest I guess gripe with Nick, which he really like makes his amends for in this book, is kind of the lack of like genuine like allyship in the first book.
Oh yeah, he was totally
Because with
clueless.
yeah, because with Bree and stuff, she's dealing with not only the fact that she's getting brought into this like very white
Hmm.
world, right?
Hmm.
And a world within a world that's already pretty white, so it's like
Yeah.
multi-layered. But he has like the best intentions. Even William kind of talks about it in this book. But they both had the best intentions to make sure she knew that it was not something that they felt,
Mm.
but it was not something that they actively spoke out against to
Yeah.
the order, and until you call out the very systems that are doing this thing, like you're not really doing much.
Yeah.
Which is why the whole thing with like stupid ass Tor really frustrates me, because her
Sarah?
behavior should not have been
Allowed.
surprising,
Yeah.
right? Like she shouldn't have ever gotten to the point where she could have betrayed them in Bloodmark, but it was the fact that people weren't actively like holding her accountable and like
Literally from
making
the end of Legendborn,
Right.
yeah.
she showed her true
She
colors. She
right
said what
then.
she
Yeah.
thought, and I would have been like, okay, that's it. Like, renounce your title and leave. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
she is your king, whether you want her to be or not. If you want to be racist, go somewhere else. Like, I don't have the time for that. And it honestly confused me why A, Sarah didn't break up with her immediately. B, why she was still around. Like, how.
And like a
Oh,
trusted voice. I was like, guys.
trusted by who?
Yeah.
Oh,
So that was kind of my biggest gripe with Nick, was that we always saw him speaking very defensively of Bree, but in private, like just with Bree.
Hmm.
Whereas Selwyn, you saw him kind of like speaking out and being a lot more obviously opposed to the things that the order was doing. And so I was very much like leaning towards Selwyn in that way. right?
I feel like of that, my friend even mentioned, like on Twitter, just generally as well, whilst we were talking about it, is the fact that Cell in many ways is similar to Bree in the sense that whilst he is white, the Merlin class are like seen as lesser than everyone else within the order, and they're treated that way. And I can't remember if either of you read the bonus content for Bloodmark, both the paperback and the hardback.
I think I did.
Okay, well, it's basically a flashback to when Nick and Cell were children.
Oh, yes, I did.
Okay, you immediately see the way he's treated. Like, he's not allowed to make friends. He can't be friends with Nick, the person he's going to be bonded to until he dies. He can't be a kid. He was ostracized by other Merlins, in fact. So he's always known what it's felt like to be mistreated by others within the order. So I wasn't surprised that he, of all people, understood where Bree was coming from. And like you can kind of see that dynamic with Nick and Cell and in the first book as well. But it's tricky because their issue is personal, but it's the fact that Nick still has more power than him and has power over him. And he kind of takes advantage of that kind of makes the dynamic a bit icky at times. And it's like, yeah.
No, I mean, I think that's why, like, and I think we even talked about it in the earlier episodes and stuff, but that's why, like, I wasn't 100% on Nick's side ever. You know, I was like, oh, I didn't really enjoy the fact that he knew his, like, power stuff and he, like, used it to his advantage when it suited him and stuff, but he wasn't actually making any real change when it came to Bree's situation and, you know, all of these things. But man, he comes in and he's like, listen, in these 3 months, I have put in the work.
Yep.
I have really sat down and thought about what I need to do in order to be better. Right? My favorite type of white boy is the kind that is self-aware and holds themselves accountable.
Exactly.
Amen.
And one of the things that I think is super important about Nick in this book is that there's the specific point in Bloodmarked that we all, you know, and I know that it was a major gripe for me, is when he finally sees Selwyn and Bree again and he like dips. Right? I remember having such a huge issue with it, but I like that he finally took the time in this one. Or, well, I guess, you know, getting meta here. Tracy took the time to explain why he did that.
Right.
And it was so needed because it was that last kind of like block for me to really understand and love Nick in the fact that we got the explanation as to like, oh, because of his finding out that he's actually you know, Lancelot and everything. One obviously explains the connection that Bree and him have, right? Not saying that's the only reason they have that connection, but why they were immediately pulled to each other. But then two, when he gets we get thrown into the mix these whole ideas of like Lancelot's visions, it makes sense because we finally get that side of him where he's like, for once, I do not know what's going on when it comes to these abilities and these things because I was not trained for this, right? And there's a lot of emphasis in this novel about what Nick was trained for and the fact that he is the most badass of the Scions, right? You know, apart from Bree. Obviously, she's on her whole other level. But because he was trained to take over as Arthur, right, he specifically gets trained not to just fight in the war, but he's coming in because he's supposed to be their, like, power play. He's supposed to be the one that is going to have the power to end the war. And you see that in all of his combat scenes. You see that in the way that he very quickly takes leadership positions. You know, he is so cool. And obviously, like, the whole point of Oathbound is we don't see a lot of Selwyn, right? So I still love Selwyn, still feel for Selwyn and a lot, and we, you know, we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll talk
but
about
like, definitely came to appreciate the white boy even more now. And his connection with Bree and the fact that we get like a subplot of like Mr. and Mrs. Smith type
forced proximity, like
all the boxes.
All the tropes.
Yeah, I was like, there's one bed.
Oh god, what next?
um, but it was so fun. And there's a point in the book where my notes started getting really just like unhinged, because I went from writing like, you know, a couple sentences of like thoughts or whatever, to there's a point where Bree goes like, he doesn't even want to be in the same room with me, and I put, girl, be so fucking for real right now. I was like, I
No one but
know.
you.
I know you know.
Oh.
There's
It's the
another.
fact that sorry. It's the fact that she didn't have her memories, and she was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, do him and Ava have like a thing?" I'm like, "No,
Never.
Never.
And there's another tab that I have that literally just says like, all I hear in my head right now is, what a man, what a man, what a man. And it's the fact that he, okay, so going on to a darker theme of trauma for a second, right? So we get a lot of, hold on, let me lean forward without making my chair scream. Okay. But we get a lot of trauma dumping in this book, right? And normally I'm not a huge fan of trauma dumping, but it makes sense and it really added to the plot, right? So we get multi-layered trauma.
Everyone
So
has trauma.
Everyone is traumatized. We've got Nick, who we find out more about his training and how that really fed into the issues between him and Selwyn, and also his issues with the Order and why he would want to leave. And there's a line that he says that hurt me, and he says like, I was the one that brought her into the Order, and I'm gonna like regret that decision for the rest of my life. And I'm like, oh.
it wasn't your fault."
Like, so we deal with his trauma there. We deal with the fact that he's dealing with the death of his father, right? And, you know, the loss of his mother, and the fact that Bree is, as of, you know, most of the book, missing. He has no idea if Selwyn's okay. He's got all of these things going on, right? And not to mention, he's like actively aware that the Order that he is trained for, that he was born into, is actively trying to assassinate him. Dealing with his trauma, right? But the person whose trauma I'm so happy we got to talk about, even briefly, it was not nearly as much as I needed, was Williams.
Yeah.
And I love that Larkin brought that to the surface of like, hey, home dog, you are also a person that needs to be taken care of. You cannot view everyone as your patients, but not give yourself the same restraint and love and all of those things. And I love that Larkin literally gives him like bullet pointed list. He's like, you were in the institute, you were tortured, you had this happen, you know, Whitty died, all of these things, right? And William's like, I'm chilling, I'm good. And everyone's looking at him like, you're a liar. You're a liar. I like that William has Larkin. They're so cute.
Okay. I have a bit of a crazy theory, as I do for
Okay.
every series that I read.
Yeah, damelo.
The Larkin we get in Bloodmarked feels very different to the one we got in Oathbound.
Don't do
And I
that
don't
to
know
me.
I don't know if that's intentional, but my friend kept saying how he thinks they're still I can't pronounce the name. You know the demons that can shapeshift into people they've killed?
Gorchel.
Yeah.
Gorochel.
There's like a very particular way of saying it. I don't want to butcher it. But
Yeah.
if you know,
Mhm.
you know.
If you know, you know.
Exactly. But he kept saying he thought it was William, and I was like, "Can you leave my boy alone? He's gone through enough, and also I don't think it's him. In fact, I don't think it's anyone." But then I was I was reading Bloodmark, and I was like, "Larkin, now's not the time. Can sir, you don't know, you don't understand. Okay, you're new to this. You don't really get the group like we do." And then I finished it, and after a while, I was like, "No, that was really weird of him." he was acting really funny. And then I was like, wait, what if it's him? What if the Larkin from Bloodmark is gone, and that's why he seems very different now? And my friend like pointed out this one oh, you know what? I wish I had this on my phone somewhere, on my iPad, but it was like a quote where it was, I think when they were discussing what William had gone through, and obviously he's like kind of reliving everything whilst he's thinking about it. And I was just like, what if he's like encouraging him to think and feel about these negative emotions so he can like feed off of them? I don't know. The way it read after I went back, I was like, this theory doesn't seem as crazy as I initially thought it was. And I want to be wrong. I probably am, but
It would make sense, and
I
I
would
hate
hate
it.
I know. I loved him in the second book. I was like, oh my god, a Scottish melon. Wow.
I think.
Yeah.
I think
I mean, it
nobody's
would make
safe.
sense. I think nobody's safe. I think Larkin's behavior in Oathbound makes a lot of sense when you realize that it's when we finally truly learn like what side he's on and what allegiance he's willing to like show, and you know, all of these things. And I think we also just get a lot more of him through the lens of somebody that he might be romantically interested in, so his behavior is obviously going to be different. If he ends up being a stinky demon, I hope William is the one that kills him.
You know what? I get why. I just would hope it's without Larkin's face if that happens.
Yes.
Because it would be 10 times worse.
Yeah.
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 Like, oh my god.
And so there's a lot of moving parts in this book, right? So Nick, William, and Larkin are on some sort of quest to hunt down the Morgaines. William tells the Order that it's because he wants to kill Ava. We know that it's not because he wants to kill Ava, but because he has a different plan. We have Mariah and Valec, who Valec is very
I love Valec.
adamant. Yeah, he's very adamant on getting Bree back. And so we end up seeing that they're on some sort of quest to kind of track down Bree themselves.
Yep.
Bree is on her quest, you know, and all of these kind of converge in one of my favorite sub-tropes.
The best. Oh,
I felt
undercover.
insane.
Let's go.
The amount of times where I was like, Valec, is that you? Have you found her?
But my favorite subtropes of a gala or some sort of manor or, you know, anything like that. And so I really loved it. It was a book within a book, really, because
3 books in one.
Yes.
There was a lot going on, right? And so we get that forced proximity that we were talking about, a book within a book. So Nick and Bree have to pretend that they are engaged. So we get that forced proximity. We get my favorite thing about Nick is that he puts on his bro face when he's with these people. And he's like, oh, I have to act like the entitled fiance whenever we're in public, but I do not want to, you know, act like that in private and yada yada yada. We're just pretending and whatever. But like, so then we meet Michael, right? That's his name.
Who are you talking about?
The owner of the mansion.
Oh, Mikhail.
We meet him. We find out that he is trying to auction off the Shadow King's crown, which, like, crazy behavior. And he's hosting a party for the rich and evil.
Yes.
And
masks are required because they can't know who
everything
you are.
They're doing is illegal.
Everything's super duper illegal.
Very.
And I love me a good spy film.
Yeah.
And this was so fun. But also just seeing the kind of issues between Bree and Nick, and the fact that Nick obviously has all of his memories, so he knows that they were like kind of together, and then Legendborn ends, and then he's off on his little adventure and Bloodmarked, and he's aware that she and Selwyn got closer in that time. Mm-hmm. She's not aware. It was just so interesting to me because he's having to navigate all of these feelings while she's just navigating, obviously, what she knows.
Mm.
And he's like...
Well, she's also navigating a bunch of feelings, though. Like...
Yes, but I mean, like, she only knows the feelings.
Memories.
Just the feelings. Yeah.
She just has the feelings. So she has feelings around Nick, and she's like, I don't know what this means. I don't like it. But okay. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, and so she's dealing with the fact that she doesn't have the memories of what they were to each other, but it's obvious that they have something, right? Especially because this man, being who he is, can't help himself, and he says, like, we've kissed enough that I know how you like to be kissed. We've touched enough that I know how you like to be touched. And I was like, sir?
Listen, I need y'all to understand the struggle that I was dealing with this entire book. Because on one hand, I'm a parent, and I'm watching these kids do wildly risky things, and I'm like, shame on you. And then the 17-year-old in me, who would have eaten this stuff up for breakfast, was like, let's go.
Dude. I was born in the same year as them. I'm now much older than them. So it's like, we were once the same age. I'm going to pretend for like a second
that we are.
That we're still in like 2020. So I was sweating. I was like, you're stressing me out.
Yeah, he had me flabbergasted so often. Because I was like, how is Bree not sitting here, like, kicking her feet?
Right.
Like, you have this man's full attention on you. And, like, so during this gala, they have Mikhail, who is doing what he calls communions. And they are basically points where he feeds off of the human's emotions, but he's trying to figure out who is trying to steal his goods. And he asked them, yes.
Can we just side note, how clever was it for Tracy to use communion
in the day context of our papa?
In this context, with like just, and I'm not a religious scholar at all, but I clocked that, and I was like, that was clever. Like the bastardization of communion by a shade. Because it was basically sort of like confessional.
It was.
Yeah, they were. Especially after, like, the break-in.
Right.
Yeah.
Getting people to confess their worst sins. Just A+. Great job.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so during this communion and stuff, the whole idea is that each person is going to answer like 4 questions or 5 questions or whatever the things are. And Iris and Benedict, which are Nick and Bree's aliases, are supposed to go up because they are the last suspects. And he does such a Nick Davis thing, and he decides that he's going to take all of the questions. And one, I think he's incredibly smart to do this because he did not want there to be even a chance that they can kind of like sense Bree and what she was and everything. 2, it gave him a chance to kind of answer all the questions that she wouldn't even need to know, or like that she didn't know she had. Mm-hmm. You know, it was like a preemptive, like, hey, if you ever get your full memories back, you're gonna remember this thing I did. And I just want to nip that in the bud really quick. And I love his brain. I love the fact that he's able to think these through. And we find out that one of the big reasons and the only reason he's going after these Morgaines is because they have this way of magic that allows them to put a piece of the Shadow King crown in his chest.
I hate that.
first of all, I was like, what does this even look like? Is this just like a shard sticking out like this?
No, that's dangerous. It's got to be parallel with his body.
I thought it was like right here where it can be easily
Think of Tony
hidden.
Stark, but with a shard. You know,
makes more sense.
Yeah.
But I hate the fact that he thought, you know what would be great? Killing myself, potentially. So,
Yeah.
like, that's what you thought would be a good idea? Like,
the trauma really unravels.
Just please get these babies some therapy and some fresh, warm, baked cookies, please.
I thought you were just going to end it with fresh worms. And I was like, wait.
No, freshly warm baked cookies.
I was like, what are we doing with the worms? But so we find out that his whole plan was that he wants, because this man hates Arthur. If Arthur has no haters, Nick is dead.
Nick's dead.
And so he hates Arthur. He hates the idea that Arthur could ever come back and hurt Bree. And so he has a plan to use this piece of the crown to basically take Arthur back, hoping to get it out of Bree, without killing her and without, like, you know, I think the plan was still to end the order, ? I don't know if he said that would end it or not.
Basically, like, he would... I don't know how he thought this would work, because taking Arthur's power doesn't mean you're taking Arthur, but...
Right.
Unless that is possible, because then if he could absorb Arthur's, like, spirit and then kill himself, he'd be getting rid of Arthur and Lancelot, and the order would be, you know...
Done.
Yeah.
That would be it. And Bree would be free, but I was just like, just 1 second, like, how does this power thing work? Because no, but it is the soul, isn't it?
It is, because that's the Morgaines or enthralled or no thrall. That was part of, like, because I was like going back to when William and Larkin found those vials of Morgaine blood that said enthrall or no thrall. So I think his hope is really to just be able to bring Arthur back up and then take him and be done with it. The vacuuming has started again, listeners. Steph is losing her mind.
I feel like we forgot to mention the fact that Bree has lost her memories.
Right.
In her, like, pursuit of power and
right.
training, it's resulted in her not remembering who certain people are in her life. Mm-hmm. Like, she remembers she's got a father.
Yes.
She just doesn't remember him. And it's the same with, like, everyone else. She knows what she's experienced the past 3 months. It's just she can't remember any of the important people in her life.
Right.
Unless they're dead, I feel. Because she could still remember her mum.
She still remembers her mum, yes.
But I guess because she's dead, like, it's not the same as for everyone else. Which I had to pause there, because first of all, the prologue was so long. I thought after I finished, like, the first chapter that I finished the prologue.
Yes.
And I was talking to my friend about it. He was like, "Oh no, you're still reading the prologue." Yeah. I was like, "What do you mean?" I'm like 30 pages in. He's like, "No, keep going." I was like, "What?" I was like, "Okay." So
yeah,
that was something. And then we got to, like, the end of her prologue, and I was like, the prologue itself, and I was like, I feel like we're not going to see her for a while. Mm-hmm. I also didn't expect there to be more than 3 POVs, because my thought process going into this book was that we would get Bree's, Nick's, and Sel's, because they're, like, the 3-ish main characters. Mm-hmm. Well, you know, Bree and her 2 white boys, as they like. So I thought it would make sense. They're all, like, separated by, like, plot point as well. Like, Nick going after the Morgaines, / with the Order. Sel with his mum figuring out, like, maybe the truth about, like, the Merlins and everything, and then Bree with the Shadow King. I wasn't expecting 5 POVs.
Yeah.
And, like, Williams and Mariah. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to complain. The more the merrier.
Yeah, but there was a lot of quests. There was a lot of quests happening.
I love seeing all of the POVs, especially Mariah's, because, like, you get more about the root side, like the root crafter side of things, which I've always enjoyed. Like, yes, the Legend of King Arthur is great. 100%. But like the root crafters themselves.
She doesn't mean it.
I don't really mean it.
She doesn't mean it.
But like just the root crafters and their history and
She's
all of that.
She's placating me.
I am. I'm not a classics girly, okay? But
I enjoy it at a surface level.
Yes.
Like my first encounter with King Arthur was with BBC Merlin when I first moved to London in like 2007. So like that was it for me. I was like, oh, cool. So he's a great guy. Him and Merlin are besties. Yeah.
Mine was the animated movie. Was it Camelot?
Oh, okay.
Which is like a deep cut for those that know it.
I'm in pain.
You really are, I can tell.
I was gonna say something. Oh, what I really enjoyed about the POVs is that specifically we get Selwyn's mom.
Yes.
And I love that her concerns are so mom-like. You know, like when she finally looks at him, she's like, this man got tattoos and piercings. How old is he?
Doing?
You know, like, and when he and her fight, she is both really upset because it hurts, obviously, but she's also incredibly proud. There's a really
it's very
important moment
coded. Like it's very much like, man, I am arguing with a smaller version of myself, and I would post up on you if you weren't related to me by blood.
Yeah. And we get all of these kind of like information. We get all of these kind of like key points about how the Merlins work. She's very smart. She's trying very hard to kind of like destigmatize this whole idea of demonia. She's trying to figure out how to help her son. What I really enjoy about her and her interactions with Selwyn is his voiceless responses and his commentary. Like he's very expressive in everything that he does, even if he's not speaking.
Yes.
And so that was really cool. I like that he very much was just kind of humoring her. Like he didn't really believe that it would work, but he was like, I'm gonna let you try. And then I'm gonna bounce because I need to go see Bree. And we find out more about her connection with Bree's mother, which was incredibly important, and why that like plays a role. And Selwyn, I think, connects the dots before I do, in the sense that that would mean that Bree's mom had been a scion of Arthur. Which then would make sense as to why she and Natasha were so close. Because it's like coded into Natasha, you know? Then we find out about Natasha's connection with Erebus and how they've known each other for a while, right? And this is when a funny little thought started popping into my brain.
I've had a theory regarding, I think it was right after finishing Bloodmark, me and my friend were like, I feel like Sel's the son of Erebus. Mind you, at that point, Erebus we thought never was human. We just thought was the Shadow King because we didn't really have a name for him until like the reveal and everything. I was like, what if, you know, that's his dad.
How do you feel about being right?
Yeah.
I hate it. It was the worst thing I ever experienced in my life. I wish for the first time in my life that I was wrong. I'm still sticking to the belief that I think that him and Valec are brothers. I will get onto that in a sec. But like, just thought, like, okay, Erebus seems really fond of Natasha. Also in Greek mythology, Erebus and Nick, was it Nyx? Yeah, because that's the nickname he gave her. They are lovers, partners. So I thought, that's his dad.
The classic Scorleys, rise up.
Like, that's definitely his dad. Like, this random human who apparently is his father that we never hear of. All we know is that he, like, drank. I don't even know if he's dead. That's the thing. Like, that's how irrelevant that guy is. I was like, that's not his dad. He was lying, or she doesn't know. I don't know how that happened in the first place, because it clearly seems like neither of them ever thought a child came out of it. But, like, Sel from the start has always been, like, oh my god, there's never been like a Merlin like him, and his mother was powerful.
I'm so good. I'm the best.
Yeah.
Right. Like you guys aren't gassing him up for no reason. Like
nobody ever thought to ask why. Why is he the best?
Right.
A lot of them just watered down to
Exactly.
training. It's like, even still, there's an innate talent there that came from somewhere.
I do not think that he and Valec are brothers. I think Valec is brother to the twins. Specifically because at the end of at Oathbound, Valec specifically turns to the twins or turns to Zoe and is like, and I think that you and I have a lot of talking to do. And she like nods and then skadoodles.
I just feel like she kept like bringing it up, like he doesn't know who his dad is. He just knows it's a nightshade. Mm-hmm. He also is very powerful for a Cambion. The twins are definitely not the Shadow King's children, which I knew that wasn't. But the fact that he had wards and had these two like Cambion children that he was looking after, I was just like, this is like so tying into the fact that he has a son himself. It's just odd that I feel like he doesn't know that Cell is his son.
He will now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
He'll be like, wait, why my crown on your head?
He irked me so bad. Why would you pick it up? You could die. Like, you didn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, my biggest upset about the fact that he put it on is the fact that he died for us, like, momentarily. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, he didn't die. He's just unconscious, right? Right, Tracy? And then he came back, and I was like, oh, so Cell is dead. I don't care that he's back. The Cell that I know and love is dead, because I don't know who that is. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I'm not saying it in the sense that, like, get him away, but, like, my baby is gone. What have they done to him? Yeah. Like,
I mean,
he's gone through so much.
It was a rough ending for the Selwyn girlies.
We can only hope that it turns out like it did in Two Twisted Crowns, where they somehow managed to separate Selwyn from whoever the fuck.
But he has to want that, we're all about consent here. That was also a big theme throughout.
I'm just hoping it's him playing it up even more, because he thinks he's far gone. Everyone thought he was, apart from Bree. She was the only one who was like, no, I think he could get help. His mum also seemed to have like kind of given up towards the end after he beat the crap out of her and ran off.
He's probably the one going around killing all these Merlins.
That I'm still like, what's going on there? Is it the Morgaine? Is it him? Like, because I was like, I can't believe Cell would do that, but
it could go either way, though. Like, because the Selwyn we knew in Bloodmarked and Legendborn isn't the same one in Oathbound.
At all. But then I also feel like he is such a typically, like, tortured teenage boy.
Right.
In this, at least within, like, YA fiction, in the sense that he thinks he's far gone, as well as everyone else. So he's just like, well, there's no coming back from this. I'm gone. Like, there's nothing anyone can do for me.
Sorry to interrupt. Especially with him believing, him knowing that, like, Nick and Bree have, like, reconciled. Mm-hmm. That probably didn't help him. Like, he probably came into the situation and was like, I have the memories of Bloodmarked. Back here. I thought we had a good thing going. I get back here and you have F'd my best friend. Or F'd my bonded, which we need to talk about that for a second.
Can I just say?
We don't have to talk about it. We don't have to talk about it.
This was like one of my, oh no, where did it go? No, it made myself laugh every time I saw it. Oh, there it is. Oh, no, it's gone again. It was me, reacting to, like, just Nick, talking about Cell. And then I hate having an iPad. It's so heavy.
Take your time.
That's what I'm saying. And Kayla tells me to read on that thing.
I did read on my Kindle. It's just... Okay, there we go. Let's be careful. That just says Nick, ? Eyebrow raised.
Yeah.
Is there something we need to talk about, sir? Feel free to... Because... Bree won't shut up about Sel's past feelings for Nick.
Mm-hmm.
She kept interrogating him, mind you, because I'm just sat here like, why does that matter? Why do you keep asking and insisting? And she's like, I mean, if you could, would you? And he's like, well, it's not a possibility, which isn't a no. He also won't shut up about his childhood crush on Nick. I'm just waiting on Nick to catch up with the two of them because
It's a
Bree's got an agenda
polycule.
there.
The moment they realize it's a polycule, life is better. That's why
Like,
I have
what
never
all this
fed.
self-sacrifice? Like, Bree's like, no one's sacrificing. Come here. We can all
Let's
hold
all
hands.
hug
We've
it
got two
out.
hands each. Like, but yeah.
I have never fed into the like Nick versus Selwyn in terms of Bree situation because I, at heart, will always be just turn it into a polycule girly.
Right.
And the fact that it hasn't. There
It
has
never
never been a
felt-
point other than like Cell coming in Oathbound and being like, "Did you know that he was also damaged?" I'm like, "Yes, girly, we know he's also damaged. It's
We've all caught
okay."
up, don't worry.
But like never in the books does Nick ever poise it as like she's gonna have to choose.
Right.
No.
You know?
And neither does
Neither.
Yeah,
does
neither does Cell. He just kind of like throws some digs at it, but like he's the grumpy one, so it, you know. But I have never fed into this idea that like Bree's gonna have to choose one of them, especially with kind of the way that they're getting rid of that order, you know, like that order is gonna burn it to the ground. One of my favorite scenes is right after they canoodled on a bench. When she says like, okay, but what if I want to burn it all to the ground? And he's like, my blade is yours. And I'm like, yeah, it is. We're gonna take this order down, which means that all of the silly little rules that not silly because it makes sense in terms of the tree and whatever, but like all of the silly little rules are not going to count anymore. And if Selwyn is, would that make him 3/4 demon and not half?
Explain.
So if
what you mean.
if the Shadow King is his father,
full demon, yes,
full demon, Natasha's not a full demon.
Wait, no. I think it just makes. I don't know how the logistics works.
Yeah,
Tracy
I'm
has
gonna pull out a
details
Punnett
about
square, like
no Punnett square, but it's the fact that all Merlins are considered unbalanced cambions because of the fact.
So is he a balance?
Well, one of them, that's what I'm thinking, because one of the parents is half human, technically half cambion, but then the other parent is human. So they're always technically more human than demon.
Yeah.
And that's why it doesn't work. But I feel like
because
throwing in the Shadow King might kind of balance the scales out, but right now he's just gone through like a whole.
Because isn't the whole thing like with the twins when they explain the twins and the fact that they're balanced cambions is the fact that
they're rare?
They're rare, but also their father being a nightshade means full demon. But then he was with a human question mark.
Yeah.
So I'm leaning towards Selwyn as some sort of balanced.
Well, look at Valec. Valec is a balanced cambion.
Yeah.
And he leans more into his demonic side too. Like he doesn't shy away from his demonic side at all.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like the oaths that the Merlins are forced to take is what causes demonia.
Yes.
Actually. And I feel like they lied and were like, take this oath. And I don't just mean the oath to like the Scion of Arthur. I just mean the general oaths they have to take. And then the other ones put on top are what are kind of like a fail-safe sort of thing where it's like, okay, well, them like their authors coming to the end of their lives, we can cut it off and have an excuse for like having to put them down essentially if they're spiraling into demonia, which they caused or created. Yeah.
Assuming that demonia even exists and isn't just made up BS by the order to control the Merlins more.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just not to be a nerd. It's just Batman having fail safes against all his superhero best friends in case they go bad. You know, like he's like having kryptonite in his back pocket in case Superman decides to dunk on him.
Yeah, but like I see where you're going, and you're not wrong, but Batman would only use those like in times of extreme like disaster.
I'm a Batman hater over here.
Whereas the Order will literally use it if a Merlin just steps out of line. Like,
even if they step out of line, if they just don't agree with
if they
anything
just
they say or do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
it's just a way of controlling the narrative,
Yep.
I feel.
So we know that by the end of this book, Selwyn has put on the crown. He has seemingly changed into like a full demon in terms of his physique.
Is he a shade now, do you think?
He's shady. Thanks.
I really just fucking alley-ooped that to you, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. But I like the fact that he's like, oh, so we've got a king, a knight, and a prince. What's gonna happen now? I like the chaos that he brings. I'm down for it. One of the characters I wanted to dig into for a second was Mariah, specifically because I loved the fact that she found herself constantly comparing herself to Bree.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally Valec was like, yo, like not every mission needs to be a Bree Matthews mission. Like,
honestly, it would be great if it wasn't.
Like, it does not need to be to that level every single time, you know? And Valec saying that and then later on realizing that he has still put Bree on this pedestal because of all of the powers that she has, right? And so when he realizes that she has like inadvertently sold off her soul or lost a piece of her soul,
he's furious.
He's furious. And she's like, yo, like I didn't even do that on purpose, which once again, everybody in the situation just needs to remember that this girl is like 17.
Yeah.
Not just 17, but like this has been, I think by the end of Oathbound, it's probably been like 6 months or something because time kept, moving forward or whatever.
Yeah, because we leave Bloodmarked in November because it was just her birthday, and I believe so actually my friend also I keep bringing Taran up. You might, if you want to give them a follow at any point, go ahead, because I think his at's like Rin's Ruin on Twitter, but he mentioned how each Legendborn book ends the month of its release. So Legendborn came out in September 2020 and it all takes place within September. Bloodmarked ends in November and it came out November 2022, and we counted the months that Oathbound took place over, and it ends March, which was the month that it came out in, which I don't know if that's intentional.
If it is, her brain.
But it's very, like, it worked for 3 out of 4 books, so at this point I feel like it is.
Yeah.
But that, like, really puts into perspective how long each book is.
Yeah, and so Valec having this moment of understanding of, like, I have put a lot of expectations on you is incredibly important because her whole shtick is that she doesn't want people to expect her to do a specific thing because she's unsure, what's the right call, and she's putting a lot of pressure on herself. And for him to realize that he has done that same thing to her, I think was an incredibly important conversation. Obviously, it has the kind of comic relief and lighthearted thing of him and Zoe calling her out on the fact that she canoodled with Nick, which I found really funny because obviously the Cambians are going to be aware of it because they're going to be aware of like where they are and stuff, and the fact that she didn't come to bed. I don't normally love references to canoodling in YA anymore, just because being a teacher kind of ruins it for me. But this was done in such a way that was nice. It was more poetic than anything else. And
it was wildly unsafe on a rooftop, on a bench.
It felt like they were on a rickety, like, bench on the edge of a roof. That's how I was imagining it. And I was like, this
but who are the two of them?
But still, Wildly unsafe. She shouldn't even be sleeping outside in just a coat.
Cold!
She didn't mean to fall asleep. Anyways, I really enjoyed it because it was just a moment for them to just be two teenagers who are feeling all of these strong emotions for the other person.
They were just Nick and Bree.
They were just Nick and Bree, and I lost my mind, not even with that scene, but literally the page after, when they're walking back in and he like presses a kiss to her shoulder and is like, I'm gonna go figure out breakfast. And I'm like, the casual intimacy is so good. And the fact that they fall into this role so easily, right, was just, it was what I needed, right? I think this book is probably my favorite of 2025 so far.
Yeah.
And not just because of the recency effect, but because it gives so much. And there's a point in the book where I literally write down, like, if I could underline every single line of this book, I would have. Because there were so many points where I've just found myself putting a tab because it was like a question that I liked, or a sentence that I liked, or a quote that I liked. And I was like, this is a book that has really leaned into the story, added to the story. It was long, and I still wanted it to be longer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I still wanted more.
It was long for a reason, and it was never filler.
Exactly.
Which is
every single page.
It's like a series
necessary.
that definitely needed an extra book before we got to the last one, because I was like, so much. We've really expanded with book 2.
Yes.
We need to do a little bit more before we like start to like close in on the last book, and I'm so glad that they let Tracy do that.
It was a love letter, I think, to all Legendborn fans, even though it hurt us at the end. Like, it really was just a beautifully written, extremely long letter to us. Like, hey, I see you. Thank you so much for your support. Here you go.
Yeah.
Godspeed. Enjoy. And it really just
have fun.
Yeah, have fun. Enjoy the pain. But it was a good pain. It was a good hurt.
It really was.
I guess, like, the ending didn't stab me like I was expecting it to, but I think that's because I kind of saw Cell getting to a point where he was just incredibly reckless. And so I was like, something big is going to happen with him by the end of this.
He's always been a wild card.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I love when they were like, okay, Bree, you'll be safe here. He's never been here. And everyone's just like, they were like having a little road trip with the other two like a few months ago. He 100% knows the tap. Like, they're like, oh, crap. Okay, you need to go here, there. And I was like, this is so messy. I'm not ready for like when they encounter each other.
Yeah.
But like, I thought the reveal, the parentage thing would be like, oh, Cell does something and it's like, you shouldn't be able to do that. How were you able to do that? And it's like, oh my god, he's the Shadow King's son, not die putting on a bloody crown and coming back to life. And also the fact that he inherited the blood mark, and the entire time we thought it was Erebus summoning her was actually Cell. I was like, wait, hold on.
That puts the entire book into a different perspective. Like, this is
because
a book
of how often
have to reread. You have to reread it to really like fully.
Yeah, but I'm not rereading it until I reread Legendborn and Bloodmarked
Not until
again.
I know I'm getting. Not until I know I'm getting the 4th book and when that date is, because I'm not doing that to myself again.
The wait between book 1 and 2 was 2 years and 2 months, and then 2 and 3 was 2 years and 4 months.
Yeah.
I hope to God it's not 2 years and 6 months for the last book, but I will also wait as long as I need to for a really good finale. Yes. So it's like,
I also know that if Tracy decides to dip her magic little brain into like the adult world, that book would be unstoppable.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, it would.
You know what I would love? A Valec prequel.
Yes.
I just
a whole Valec series,
first
honestly.
of all, generally, like getting to see his birth in the first book and then meeting him in the second book, finding out he has a questionable past.
Yeah.
And he's there for a long time, so much has happened. I would read that book. Like, I would devour it. Like, clearly because I thought, okay, if he reveals what he did in his past in this book, I don't think we'll get it. It's still a possibility in book 4, but I don't think we're going to have Valec sit down with everyone, a little story time of what Valec did growing
I don't know.
up.
I think we might, because we're going to have to find out who his father is.
True.
Maybe.
There's going to be, we might even get like a Valec POV in book 4, which I think would make sense.
I think we're going back to just Bree in the last book.
Damn.
So we could get him saying, like, I was trying to find out who my father is. This is what I don't know. I found this out. Like, we might still get, like, some stories about his past, but not everything. And I definitely could see, like, a prequel still happening. It doesn't need to be, like, a big book like any of the main books, but like a 250, 300, probably about 300 page book. I'll be...
Yeah, light change. Little lunchtime reading.
A couple of pages, like a 2-minute read. I could see that
there was
happening.
A mop hitting my door.
Godspeed on that after this.
Honestly.
It's okay.
But yeah, like, regarding Mariah, I thought after she got the pendant that she would be able to help Bree, like, bridge, or like at least figure out what she needed to know from her ancestors without them taking over her body in a way. But then it seemed like she can get her powers back as a medium at the end of the book, so we'll see how that goes. But I don't blame her for, like, cutting herself off, because the fact that she had not just Arthur taking over her body and controlling it in the way that he did, but also her ancestors, and the fact that they've put so much pressure and expectation.
Yeah.
It's essentially a curse on her. And it's like, I know why you did it, and you had every right to do it. But you also didn't think about how that would affect it could have ended with your child.
Right.
It could have been your child. It just happened to be generations later, but at the end of the day, Bree is still hers in a way. So it's like,
yeah,
it's unfair to have to deal with that, and I don't blame her for cutting herself off. It's just the fact that she wasn't able to find someone who could actually give her proper guidance and have the time to, like, train the way she did with Erebus in terms of, like, her physical abilities and her powers. Yeah.
I think there were so many parts of this book that I loved. We've talked about that. How does she know?
She always knows. She knows all.
But it's the fact that they put such a heavy emphasis on the end of what...
I'm just gonna wait.
Are we getting to talk about Alice? Is that where your head?
Old.
Okay. Because I don't know if I'm
I
ready to
think
talk about that.
my friend was saying something about Cell, like, tying into Cell and, like, just inheritance as a whole, how he could play a role in Alice. I didn't expect her to be gone this entire book. I thought maybe halfway through.
Yeah, I thought we'd get her back sooner.
No, it's still asleep. And she stopped suffering.
Yeah, I think this book puts a lot of emphasis on, like, the soul, and I loved that when Bree finally got hers back, even with, like, the scar tissue that was on her soul and everything, she really talks about how it, like, changes the color of the entire world, because not only does she now have the feelings, but she has the context behind it. She has the whys and the, the stuff that makes her her. Shifting over to Alice, we find out that she is in limbo, and that this entire time she has been basically, like, reliving the point with the sonar sound thing that she used. And she's
such an Alice thing.
Yeah.
I just feel like fixating on how she could fix it.
Yeah.
Is crazy to me. But we find out that the whole point we were talking about at the beginning with Bree having to become impervious and unstoppable and untouchable and all of these things is she finally has to make a decision at the end whether she's going to get her soul back or whether she's going to help Alice. And she decides that she is going to get her soul back, which is so tough. I think she made the right call.
I don't think
Because
she
she
had a
need-
choice.
Yeah, I think in order to win the game, you have to know all of the parts. You have to know all of the rules. You have to, and that's such a big thing within this book, is this idea that like rules can change. And so in order to have any chance of winning, she needs to have all of the information.
Yeah.
And so we find out that Alice is stuck in this limbo, and Erebus makes a point of saying that he is the only one that would be able to get her out. And because before Arthur and everything like that, he was, and then I don't know how to pronounce his name.
No.
Arwen.
Like R.
There's an A in there.
Yeah.
But so he talks about how like he would be able to help Alice get out, and that he is one of the reasons that she hasn't been able to get out. And he kind of taunts Bree at the end and says like, look at you have become ruthless. And it's such a tough call for her to make. But I do believe what you just said about that theory of Cell being able to do something about it. It would make sense if he's able to inherit
But would he want to? Would he do it?
Well,
Cell from Legendborn and Cell from Bloodmarked would do it for Bree. If she asked.
Even then, maybe not with how Alice was constantly on his neck.
But I was like, Alice had her foot on his neck.
But if Bree asked, he would do it.
Alice was looking at Cell like, stay on the ground.
But maybe this would like
Oathbound
endear him to her a little. It really depends on what happens in the book.
I mean, I really believe that Cell still has some inkling of care towards Bree and towards Nick, because he makes all of these comments about like her magic doesn't smell the same. She doesn't smell the same. He makes sure, even if it's for his own selfish gains, he makes sure to kind of cover their back when they're dealing with Erebus, and he really shows up when they needed him. So I do think it falls back to that, what we were talking about, where I think he's playing up a lot of it.
Yeah, and like he definitely wants Bree.
Yeah.
Not specified how exactly, but like he could have fed off of her there and then. He didn't. He's just like, what's wrong with you? Like, as you said, like, why do you smell different?
Yeah.
Did you do something? What? But like, I never felt like she was particularly in danger when he would. Like, I know everyone else was panicking, but I was like, I don't think he's going to try and kill her.
I never
At best,
got that
he just
impression.
wants to be near her power, I guess. But like, it never felt like I need to kill her. I'm going to devour her, all her root and everything. It was just like, it's more of an obsession.
Yeah,
but now
he makes a point of saying that he likes the chase. So like, why would he get rid of her?
And also, how much is now his inheritance playing into this?
That too.
Yeah.
It's a whole new Selwyn.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think all I've got are question marks.
I mean, it's like we got literally next to nothing. It was, he's now a new person.
Enjoy. Like,
have fun.
Stay tuned to meet him.
Like, hello, can we not like? I do love the like, not canon. I'm considering the little post-it notes in the Barnes and Noble edition. I don't know if you read them. No, they're very. It's like how I imagine, like some shows or like books that I would read where there's like a secret identity or something they don't know, and it's like, how would you react if you were here in this scene, even though you're on a different continent?
Right.
It's kind of like Cell going back and like viewing this from a TV, like his reaction essentially. And I was like, I kind of love this because this is something I daydream about characters doing generally, and now we have it as like a fun little bonus content.
Sorry, I just had a moment. Bree needs to get her freaking sword back, bro.
Right. You know what's crazy, actually? So the day I finally pick up Oathbound. I'm reading it. I'm coming back from the British Museum where I had an afternoon class. We were going through like the like classics section because we were, what day was this? I went twice, like the week of release for 2 different classes. But I'm almost never there. And I'm on the bus home and they're in the British Museum and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But like, what do you mean you just leave Excalibur there and we
Yeah.
never see it again?
Yeah.
Can she have her sword back, please?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can she have her freaking sword back, please?
She worked hard
Now
for
she knows
that.
how to use it. Exactly.
She like recreated it, man.
What I loved about like her training though was the fact that it never felt unnatural, and we
Right.
know that she was working hard every day, training in different ways, whether it was like physically fighting or figuring out how to use her like ether route, or like blending in and getting a sense of everything. Like it felt earned. It didn't feel like we just had a quick montage of her training and wow, look at Bree, she can suddenly fight. Like it never felt like that, and
No.
I'm so glad because I hate when that happens, and it would have irked me, but it just made sense. And like we kind of get a bit of a new Bree.
Yeah.
She is a bit ruthless, and I was like, you know what? Exactly. Don't let anyone hold you back
Yeah.
as of right now and
Right.
where you are, but like when you're back with your friends.
Mm-hmm. I
But
just realized I'm freaking stupid.
oh no.
Because I just put together the fact that because her root is red
Yeah.
and Arthur's thing is blue,
Blue.
that's why her
Hers
stuff is
purple.
purple.
You're so cute. You're
Because
so
it
cute.
shows that she's finally brought the two together. You know,
Yeah.
like she's finally, they're not working
Yeah.
disconjointedly.
Yeah.
You're so
Anyways,
cute.
yeah, thanks. I can have really good takes and really takes a while.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
Those-
I'm trying to think.
There was something else I wanted to mention, and it just her reuniting with her dad
Oh,
was a scene that made me I burst into tears. I actually
Same.
had to put my Kindle down. I was like, wait, I'm not okay.
same.
Because like the first 2 books never made me cry. I was like emotional at times, but I never felt teary or anything. Then we get Oathbound. I'm already teary with Nick and his reaction
Mm-hmm.
to Bree disappearing. Will, all the flashbacks and like Faye talking about not Faye, Natasha talking about Faye.
Mhm.
I was just a mess. And then we get to her dad getting there and she starts crying and I start crying and I'm just like,
Yeah, we're
I'm
all
not
crying.
okay.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, it was so beautiful, but I'm so glad he was back.
And he had his
And
memories
I
back.
have to say, I burst into like I couldn't stop laughing when Natasha shows up at his door
Yeah.
and he's like, "What the hell happened to you?" She's like, "Oh, it's just my son." He's like, "Your
Son
son
did that
beat
to you?
like, what were you doing?"
And she's
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
please
God.
don't call the cops. He was like, I have a injured white woman on my doorstep. I'm not calling the cops.
No.
Yeah. Really terrible that was the smartest play.
The other part that really made me laugh was when Emil was getting scolded. And I just, in like myself, I felt like I was getting scolded by Hazel. I was like, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I'm
I
sorry.
didn't do anything.
I'm sorry. I didn't do anything, but I'm sorry. Don't yell at me.
It was good. I can't wait to reread these. I'll probably reread them sooner than the 4th book coming out.
Mm.
No, I'm gonna let the
Because-
scar
It's fun.
tissue form first.
Yeah.
I kept rereading Legendborn and Bloodmarked, and then I did a reread last year, and then I was like, hey, I'm going to reread at the start of this year as well, so I'll be ready. And I did not. I went straight into Oathbound. I was like, I should remember everything. Luckily, I did, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to at least reread because I had only read Bloodmarked once. Like the episode was the time that I had read it for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And
so it's
so
all pretty for you.
yeah, and so Legendborn I've read twice.
Yeah.
But now I got to go through and
Mm.
connect the
I need to get another paperback edition because the way I annotated my US paperback was just so like, oh, who's this character? Oh, this is so funny. Like, no heaven.
I
These
love
aren't.
to do that though, but with just get a different colored pen.
can't do that. I'm too neurotic. Like it would hurt me. Yeah. In fact, my Bloodmark paperback, for some reason, like the last 100 pages, wasn't like the signature wasn't put in properly. So like the barcode bit at the bottom where they're supposed to cut it off is still on the page, and then the top of the book is like cut off. And I was like, oh,
That would
okay,
no.
you're going to charity. I will get another one
Yeah.
because I don't know why it did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm all out of tank. Ain't got no gas in it. Anything else we need to talk about?
Let me think. The twins, maybe? I love the twins, honestly. I didn't
Yes.
expect Bree to end up having any companions while she was with Erebus, but I also didn't know how long she would be with him for, so I'm
Yeah.
glad that we got them. And they're both just really interesting, and I love Bree having more like black friends around her
Yeah.
age.
And I love Zoe in the fact that when she finds out about Bree and her, you know,
Root.
her stuff, she's like, I'm not mad about who you are. I'm mad that you lied to me.
Yeah.
And it's such a, like, by that point, they were like, you know, that was like the true test of friendship of like, I don't care what you are. I'm mad you're a liar.
Yeah.
And the moment when they come in contact with Cell and Cell like speaks to them and then is like, they're like, we gotta go because now it's just us two. You know, like we want to be safe and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Zoe's obviously upset. She doesn't want to leave Bree, but she doesn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Friendships.
What?
Friendship.
Oh my god, speaking of like Valec, let me tell you the first time I thought it was like the amount of times. Okay, so it's the fact that they're both Cambions, the twins, first of all, and Valec is still more powerful than them, is why I thought that he would be Cell's brother and not the twins, because it does make sense. It could also just be that he's older, so he's had more time to like get a good grip on his powers and how he could use them, and maybe the fact that he also has root as well, that could play into that. But just generally he seems like a more powerful balanced Cambion compared to the twins, so that would also be really funny if he was Cell's brother, because that would piss both of them off.
Oh, we
And
really
I just
would.
for comedic purposes, so I was like, you know what, just for
constantly
entertainment
one-upping each other.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and the fact
Of
that
course, your
Valak, when he
brothers,
first
that
comes
makes so
in, is
much
like
sense.
flirting with Bree.
Yeah.
So I was like, no.
No. We're not doing that.
I'm trying to get a feel of what we are, let alone what you two could be. No.
Yep. Exactly. But yeah, overall, I think Tracy did a marvelous job.
5
10
stars.
out of 10.
I did wonder if like Merlins can procreate with one another and why they only ever have children with like humans. Is that probably because of the same reason why Scions can't have kids together,
More of,
or
like,
is it
control
just
thing?
Yeah.
I imagine,
that was like
I imagine it's more of a control thing on the Order's part than anything else.
It's always a control thing on the Order's part.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Can we talk about when Nick is doing his Curia and he does the whole like scolding of the entire Order, and not just the Order but the Southern chapter themselves? That the guy, I forgot the name, but one of the regents is literally like, I'm sure what you're saying means something to someone, and I'm like, you I was so flabbergasted by this man just with his whole chest being like, you calling me a racist does not matter to me. And I love the fact that Tor is not given a single line in this book.
Thank God.
She has been silenced, and I needed it.
Let's keep it that way.
Let's keep her silent.
Yes. Please.
But yeah.
Back to like, I keep starting it and forgetting to like finish.
Go.
When the twins were like, we've got a meeting, what should we do with her? Like when they're talking about Bree, like, do we bring her with us? Do we take her back? I was like, is this person they're meeting with Valec? Could it possibly, like,
Yeah.
That would have been funny.
we have connected? And she did it on purpose, because the amount of times where it's like, oh, I need to meet with this nightshade because
Yeah.
only they can, like, and I was like, oh my god, it's happening.
Yep.
But initially I thought, okay, this guy they're meeting at this like club or whatever is him. It wasn't him. But then we get a Valec chapter and he's like, okay, there's this nightshade.
Yeah.
Haven't spoken to her in a while. I could, with my connection, chat to her. And then we get Bree going to, like, what was it? It was like a
Data?
shed that
Was
he
it-
had.
Oh,
Yeah.
the
That was her
barn
name.
warehouse like thing. Yeah.
Yeah, just so that she could have something to give to her. And I was like, oh my god, it's happening.
Yeah.
We're finally getting the first, like,
I
reunion.
thought for sure.
And then we get there, and the person she bumps into is Natasha, and I'm like, "What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to be here."
Just
And it hurts because she doesn't even know who she is, and even if she had her memory, she wouldn't know who she is.
Right.
Oh, and
She
not
might
just
be like,
and not
"She
to
looks
mention the fact that
familiar."
Natasha like
She
believes
knew
that
that was
Bree was
Bree.
just a normal girl.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing here?
And so she makes a whole point of saying, like, I cannot look after the both of you.
Yeah.
But it's like, you are here for magical purposes. Bree shouldn't know about this.
Right.
Yeah.
But again,
Like,
she
hello?
can't worry about Bree and Selwyn. She only has
Yeah.
capacity to worry about one.
But I was like, he's gonna know. And the fact that it was through her scent, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
This is insane. And then we do get Valec going to see her, and it's as the last, like,
Last one of the night.
person to go and see. And I was like, are you serious? You guys just missed each other. And then when they get to, was it Michael? I'm gonna call him Michael. When we get to his house,
Mm-hmm.
or mansion, and there's a person in the dark and they're fighting. I was like, Valec, is it you?
I thought it was Valec too
No.
at first. And I was like, wait, no.
She kept teasing
Valec
me.
would have figured out it was Bree and would have said something.
Valec's also not much of a fighter, so I was like,
Yeah.
maybe he just suddenly knows how to defend himself. I mean, he's been around a while.
Yeah, and the fact that it's like a dance between them, and then Bree puts it together later that every fight is boring to Nick unless it's like somebody that he like is his equal in skill or like, in way. And it
There's so many good bits in
But
this
yeah.
book.
yeah, we could literally
was-
talk
he was
for hours
great.
and hours about it.
You're gonna lose your mind in a little bit if that vacuum keeps
Were it
going.
not for the vacuum, we could talk for hours.
Our house is not that big.
You got company coming over? It don't matter.
No,
You sure?
we do not. Yes.
100%.
100%, I am sure. Yeah, I've got no other notes. I'm sure I'll have notes when I reread this thing again. I'll probably do it in the summer when I have time.
It's a good time, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel like what I love about each book so far is, like, the first book is really introducing Bree and the characters and, like, the possible relationships, and then we get a focus on her and Sel, and then more of her and Nick in this book, which I don't know, I wasn't expecting, but I really appreciated, because, again, made me love his character. So I'm interested to see
If it's
where the focus is for the last book. That's what I was thinking.
The three of them.
The thing is, I just feel like we need more development with Nick and Sel.
Yeah.
Just a bit more. Because, like, I have had enough with, like, the bonus chapters, but not everyone has access to that.
Right.
And it's like, without that, I could see a throuple happening, but with it, it's like, oh, 100%. We just need Nick to lock in.
We just need
And
Nick
we're
to
good.
get his stuff together.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's
Even
stop
if
being
it's
suicidal
even
for,
if
like,
it's
a
like
hot second.
like I'm trying to think. The Katie Robert book no, not that one.
Not Midnight Ruin. Cruel Seduction?
With Aphrodite in them.
Oh,
where it's
Aphrodite, Hephaestus, and
Yes.
Ares?
Pandora and all of that, because
The
there's
four of them.
platonic. There's platonic within that.
It's like an open square. We just need an open
Yeah.
triangle.
Yeah, where Nick maybe doesn't lean that way, right? But they're both. It's shaped.
I'm just saying
about
chapter, that flashback from Will's point of view,
Yeah.
where it was like them watching over Bree. I could see it on there.
Yeah. Selwyn saying he's got them.
Yeah.
Let him.
Don't worry about it. This is
Don't worry about it,
couple thing.
sweetheart. Yeah. I can see it happening. I see the fourth book being, listen, the only thing I won't like, but that's because I'm a romance girly,
Yeah, you are.
is I cannot, my least favorite trope in any book is you have some sort of like important romance subplot throughout the entire series, and then at the end the main girl chooses herself.
I'm choosing to be me.
Yeah, I can't stand that.
Like, I
You
feel
know,
like
it's
Not
better than her picking a terrible love interest
Yeah.
and giving up her powers.
Yeah.
Cough, cough, shadow and bone.
yeah. I
think
can't
Tracy
stand.
could do it well though with Bree, because it would still fit Bree's characterization of like, you know what, I
She's
need
like,
to put myself
yeah.
first.
She knows what she's doing is the
Mhm.
thing that I'm never worried about with
Yeah.
Tracy. Like,
I'm not worried about it, but that I'm putting
I'm
it
worried
out there
about
right now. That's
anything.
my least favorite trope.
Touchwood, like, it doesn't happen, but
Like, my goodness, I
Could you
can't do
imagine?
it. I can't do it.
especially with all the unnecessary discourse it would have caused.
Yeah, like you put me through the trenches for years, letting me see the ship wars that are happening.
It's worse now that the series has been getting more popular, because then now everyone's like, they're mischaracterizing the character they don't ship
Yeah.
Bree with, and it's like, that's not, you're not getting the
Right.
point.
Yeah.
Please get the point or leave. It's not Nick or Cell, and it's why are you shitting on Cell
Yes.
or why are you shitting on Nick if you don't get, like, and the fact that there are some people that read it and they don't even really care about Bree, and I'm like, well, I don't know why you're here.
Why are you reading
Because
it
this
then?
is very, we had one multi-POV book,
We
but
are
it's still her book.
we are always
We're going
Team
back.
Bree here.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones
Yeah.
are just her white boys.
Hashtag Team Bree.
Right.
I honestly don't know how the series could end though. Like,
No, I have no theories for book 4.
this
I've
is,
got
I had
nothing.
so many for this book.
I've got
Absolutely
nothing. We
nothing
have to
for this
figure
one.
out who's killing the Merlins.
Yep.
That they definitely weren't mentioning that for no. Like, I know the Morgaines were doing some of it, but like, I don't think the ones being killed near where Natasha and Cell were them, or Cell himself.
Right. I think it's somebody else.
Yeah.
Gotta figure out who's killing the Merlins. Gotta figure out how to get Alice out of limbo.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one theory we kind of have then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What does it mean that Cell is a prince of Shadow Prince?
Mm-hmm.
Conceived. That's my question.
Can Bree fix her ancestral stream? Is Bree passing her classes?
I'd be surprised if the teachers even remembered her.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like,
they must have been mesmered about it by now. Like
just one student, one 16-year-old out of like all the other regular university age.
Yeah, but by this point you have like an entire chapter of people that just aren't going to class because they're fighting. I gotta know. But yeah, if
share your
nothing
theories,
else,
listeners. What do you
share
think?
your theories. Talk
Please.
to us about it.
How are they gonna deal with abatement? Like, if the
Yeah.
order is good, does that end? Like,
Do we
how
get
does
to
that
have them live
Happily
long?
ever
Because
after?
that'd be
Or are you
cool.
free the moment you're born, or the moment you're called, or
Right.
what's up with the oaths?
Yeah.
What's up with demonia for it? Like,
how do we get rid of the regents?
Yeah.
oh, please, ASAP, before we even think about Arthur.
Moida, I say.
Burn
Is
Larkin?
Is Larkin?
That'd be so
Is
sad.
he Larkin?
I would be so sad if he's not.
Is there a way that Tor and Sarah don't have to be bonded anymore?
Oh my
Because
god, I
Sarah
forgot
doesn't
they
seem
were.
like she wants to be there.
Oh my god.
I've
I feel
got
like so long as her Scion's dead, she should be fine. Right?
true.
Okay,
Tor.
Sarah, Tor, you can go.
Bye, Tor.
Tor, go into battle.
Guillotine. Bring it back for Tor.
Yeah. Listeners, this has been our Oathbound episode. We are super excited for you guys to have been here with us, to be along with the journey. Make sure that you are supporting Tracy Deonn and everything that she does.
Amen.
Because it really is up to her fans to do it, because big publishers are not fans.
Nope.
They are not here for authors of color.
Especially
and
Black
it's a
authors.
damn shame. So
Especially
make
with
sure
series is.
Yeah, make sure you are following her on all of her social media. Make sure you are engaging with her on all her social media.
But don't be creepy.
But don't be creepy.
No.
My bad. Felt like that went without saying. Don't be creepy.
No, not in this day and age. It doesn't.
I am willing to throw hands on the internet at all points.
Always.
Make sure you are purchasing the books. Leave reviews in places. That's just a note for everything. Always leave reviews on your books.
And recommend the book that you love to people you know in person as well as online.
Engage with your favorite content creators. It's hard work out here with the algorithms.
It's horrible. I took a week break. It did not do much.
Yeah. But like we said, thank you guys for being here. Thanks for listening. We hope to catch you in the next episode. Stay tuned on our Instagram in case we do any scheduled rereads of any of these things.
Yeah.
And we will see you in the next one. Bye.